Yes, yes, yes. This is the Castworthy podcast, and we are back. It is Sunday, October 20th, episode 253. I am Big Steve, aka Last of a Dying Breed, on the X Machine, joined today by EJ, the traveling, sophisticated Stewart, and VP, the research gentleman. Um, and we're about 16 days away from the election, so all research has been dedicated to politics. So don't ask him anything else today. Don't ask him about Tua. Don't ask him about nothing. It is Sunday fun day, gentlemen. How you doing? EJ is repping his New York Jets as he is on the road. Uh, he catches flights, not feelings. How you
Not
guys
true.
doing?
Not a glorious day, brother. Out here in Pittsburgh, it's cold. It's nice little scene. See the city behind me.
It's nice of you to go out there to pass out waters to people and talk about voting for Kamala.
Yeah, I had an interesting conversation last night with the right
Hanging
wing.
out in the swing states or the swinger states.
Had it. Can you hear me? Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had an interesting conversation with a right wing Jets fan last night who was born in 2001, and I mean, it's just at this point they're just gonna do what they're gonna do. You know what I'm saying? And you just gotta hope, whoever you. Well, we're on this podcast. We're for the left largely, and even despite criticism and etc., you just gotta hope that her people are gonna push and do what they need to do because they're just gonna vote for Trump with no real reason or rhyme at all.
Yeah, there's no changing anybody's mind, Anybody that's already supporting that guy is, you're not going to change their mind. There's nothing you can do. They already know who he is, what he does, what he said, what he's done. So but before we get started there, shout out to the New York Yankees. That is first and foremost. That is more important than anything. More important than Trump. More important than Kamala. More important than Pittsburgh. More important than the Jets. It is the New York baseball Yankees are on their way to the World Series after Juan Soto hit an extra innings home run last night. And the Yankees went on to win 5-2 and cashed my parlay. So thank you very much to the Yankees. And here we go. It is now where number 28 is 4 games away. 4 games away. Aaron Judge can get his first. Stanton, it's go time, man. It's go time. And they will be playing the Dodgers. They will be playing the Dodgers. And the reason I say that, I'm sorry, EJ, but let me put this into perspective for you. I saw something this morning that said, go ahead and talk. I'm going to get you those numbers real quick as to
Well,
why they're going
my
to play
thing
the
is,
Dodgers.
I hope at least the Mets win tonight to push it to Game 7. And a Subway World Series, we haven't had one since 2000. It would be phenomenal for New York. I would hope that it happens so I can go up there and tailgate and see what it's all about. But the Mets got some tough sledding to do. They let one go at home versus LA, and
Yep.
Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts can get real hot. They've also been slumping, so I think it's going to be a pivotal time for the Mets bullpen and their bats to see what they're really all about. So,
I want the
we'll
Mets to
see.
win, but I'm going to tell you why the Dodgers are going to win. First of all, this is America. But before we get to this being America, they said that Game 5, which was the last game between Dodgers, I'm sorry, Game 5 of the NLDS, which was
Mhm.
the Dodgers and Padres, had 12.9 million viewers in Japan alone.
Mm.
So the viewership for America was 7.5. The viewership for Japan was 12.9. Sure, we know there's a whole lot more of them, but they're basically saying that 10% of the population in Japan watch the game at 9 a.m. in the morning on a Saturday, 9 a.m. their time. That type of viewership translates to money, which translates to the Dodgers going to the World Series. Like that,
Do you think
that
it's more financially beneficial for two New York teams to be in versus the Japanese viewership?
no. New York is a state. You know what I mean? Like New
How many
York is a
people?
state.
Did you say watch it in Japan?
12.9.
I mean, you got that in New York City alone.
Mm, yeah, but that was 12.9 plus 7 million in America. You know what I'm saying?
Very true. Very
Yeah,
true.
from a money standpoint, there's no disputing where that comes from. And then, of course, Shohei he's the guy of the future. He's the new Babe Ruth. He's the two-way player. Next year, he says he plans to pitch again. So if he can pitch, he just went 60-60. Like there's no way that they don't try to focus on making this guy the face of the league in some way. And it's unfortunate for the Mets. It's unfortunate for the Mets, but
Crazy is
that's
still
what we're gonna see.
playing and didn't get the Pete Rose treatment, though.
What is it?
Crazy he's still playing, didn't get the Pete Rose treatment.
Oh, but that's because they said it was his
Translator.
translator. Yeah, so can't you know you know how that goes. Plus, it's 2024, man. Sports betting is all over the place. That's why they want you guys to think that the Cowboys are going to have a bad season.
Yeah, all right.
Huh? What'd you say? I didn't. I didn't quite hear you.
I was just asking if they were having one already. I don't know.
I mean, I guess it depends who you ask. If you ask all the commentators, all I've heard all week is the Dallas Cowboys are the shittiest team since sliced bread. Like this is the worst team you've ever seen, and these guys are just going straight to hell. That's what it sounds like to me when I watch sports news. But when you look at it with the eyes of someone who actually understands how sports works, we're 3-3, second place in our division. Like, what are we talking about? Well, tied for second because Philly hasn't played their third game yet. But
Yeah.
what can we do? Washington is in first place. Washington's 4-1. I want to say 4-2. I'm sorry, 4-2. So they're game ahead, right? Like, did the Cowboys look bad? Absolutely. But is it like does it look like their season's over? No. I would say, if you're gonna argue that their season's over, then there's a lot of teams whose seasons are. You can't tell me that you feel like the Cowboy season is over, but then in the very next segment on these shows, they're like, oh well, Cincinnati, they got Joe Burrow,
Or
so
the
they're Super
Dolphins.
Bowl contenders. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Or the Dolphins. Or the Dolphins. Still have hope, especially now that Tua is coming back when they look like complete dog shit and stole a game from New England. So I get your point on that.
Right.
And I think the
Well,
point is different. It's not just about having hope or whatever. Yeah, your record is whatever it is, so you're still mathematically alive and that kind of stuff like that. And it's not like I'm sitting here today saying the Cowboys aren't going to make the playoffs. But with that being said, the Cowboys, who's supposed to be one of the top teams in this league, Super Bowl contenders, etc., have been embarrassed twice this season. Had 40 burgers put up on them twice this season. One by a team that also is a contender in the Lions, and one by a team that a lot of people think aren't really made of shit, which is the Saints or whatever. And the fact that they've been embarrassed twice, and I believe I know one was at home with the Lions. I'm not sure the Saints game was at home. I don't remember. But you got a team that basically won 16 straight games, and they put up 9 points and got 40 scored against them at home. There's a problem. Something's wrong, and um, it seems like the Cowboys themselves and the players, the coaches, and the ownership aren't acknowledging that.
Well, I would say of all teams that suffered injuries, I think it feels like the Cowboys get the least amount of bail. Because they They
You
lose
beat
their
me
starting.
to it.
They lose their starting rusher. I mean, edge rusher. They lose this guy, that guy, left and
They
right.
lost two starting rushers, edge rushers.
They lose guys left and right, and it seems like again, bringing up Miami. Okay, Tua goes down. This person goes down. That person goes down. You'll hear Joy Taylor say, "Oh well, they're not healthy." You'll hear this person say they're not healthy. But when the Cowboys get hurt, nobody ever says, "Hey, a lot of their starters are down, and they're still 3-3."
I got you on that. EJ, I'll just ask if you could just shoot me an email, inbox me the footage from the podcast of you shooting the Dolphins bell last year when they lost 6 starters on defense. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm never going to shoot the Dolphins better because I hate the Dolphins. What do you mean?
Okay,
And
that's
we're
fine. You don't have to.
wait, whoa, whoa,
Steve
whoa.
can
Look,
shoot me the bell of Steve doing it. Then.
we we're talking about the Dolphins losing sea level talent though. The Cowboys lost arguably the best defensive player in the league.
It
Defensive
doesn't. It don't matter. I don't have a problem with shooting teams bell for injuries because
Wait, wait,
when you
wait.
lose,
How you gonna say you don't have? You were on
no.
here
But what I'm
all
saying,
last year crying
this is
about how
what I'm
your
saying.
team screwed up, and we agreed
If
with you.
if I could just finish. So I don't have a problem with shooting a team bail for losing players, right? Because that's a big part of the game. Like you just mentioned, the Dolphins losing two. You lose your quarterback, and like people expect you to still just win. Can it happen? Sure, but is it likely? Probably not, right? But regardless of the level of talent that you believe the Dolphins have versus what the Cowboys have, these guys are starters on your team for a reason, right? The guys who are backups for a reason. And for us to be shot no bail for losing 6 starters on defense in the space of three
all
weeks.
they do is shoot you guys bail. All they do is shoot Miami bail. That's all
Okay.
they did. And that's all
But
they
we
do
we
this
did
year.
it last. Y'all
Oh
did it last
well,
year. We did it
look,
last year. How long have we given you bail for how many offensive line starters? You're like Chris Greer can't get it right. Doesn't build this team right, and we agreed with you many times.
Mm, mm,
dog, dog, starter or not. Your best five players are on your offense, right? You
And
lost your
James Phillips.
offensive. So when you guys lose defensive players, that's not a huge deal. The Cowboys were the number one defense last year. Losing defensive players is a big deal to the Cowboys, especially when your argument is they're giving up a lot of points.
yeah, but even if they're giving up a lot of points, the offense still isn't doing shit. It's one thing if they were giving up a lot of points and losing in a shootout and the score was like 49-45 or whatever. They
I'm not
lost
sure. I'm
47
not
to
sure if you.
9.
I'm not sure if you know how football works, but when you become one dimensional, things change. So if your defense is giving up points and you got bad coaching and you're down 17 plus points and all you can do is pass, and there's no running game, they got no running game. So yeah, there's things going on over there, but can it change? Absolutely. Have we seen teams with worse talent and better? Absolutely. It's so early in the season for people to be like, "Oh, the Cowboys are going to be a lottery team. They're going to be at the top of the draft." Like they're 3-3. What the fuck are we
Right. I
talking
don't
about right now?
the whole like they're gonna pick in the top 10 of the draft, that's overblown BS, right? But the point that I'm making is that something is wrong with Dallas. And it's not just the injuries on defense. The offense is not good. And people on the team that if you want to get off the bandwagon, get off. McCarthy telling us that it's all good. Jerry Jones gaslighting us, telling us that it's all good. It's obviously not all good because they're not scoring points. There's something wrong with the offense, and it seems like the people who are in charge of fixing it don't even recognize that there's a problem.
I would agree
That
with that too.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
I
the
would agree
problem
with
is
that.
there's no running game. That's the problem. So there's
There,
no
yeah,
running game. Go
there's
ahead,
no
EJ.
deep talent. There's no deep talent on that team. When you look at it, you got Ferguson, who I love coming out of Wisconsin, I believe. They're not using him right. Then you're only throwing to CD Lamb, who's all world. Don't get me wrong, but he can't do everything. I mean, you got a good running back now in the kid, but you're not even using him the way that you use Pollard, and they have a similar skill set. But when you think about it, and you think about the moves that were made around the league, and the trades that happened, and the things that were going, it seemed as though Jerry Jones keeps holding on to whatever he believes he can do in the future. No, the future is now. If there are people on the trade market, go get these guys. And he didn't do that. So I think that's the biggest problem with the offense. And going back to the defense, they suffered a lot of losses. And then even when Michael Parsons was healthy, it seemed like they were so frustrated with the offense that they almost all the way gave up. And then you got this kid off the field doing podcasts and all this other kind of stuff. When the game that they played against the Ravens, they looked completely unprepared. So I would agree with you, Vari. And I guess to Steve's point for a long time, Mike McCarthy doesn't have this team dialed in the way they should be.
Right. Mike McCarthy doesn't have control of the team. Jerry Jones doesn't understand that he's the smartest guy in the room, right? We talk about that all the time. Outside of sports, just in general, the smartest person in the room or who thinks they're the smartest person in the room and doesn't want to give any leeway, and that's Jerry Jones. The fact that he didn't go get Derrick Henry, the fact that Alvin Kamara is asking to be traded and there's no word that he went out and tried to get this guy. The fact that Devontae Adams wanted to be traded and not even a word, regardless if he wanted to play with Aaron Rodgers, not even a report that Jerry Jones made a call to the Raiders to go try and get this guy. That's the smartest guy in the room mentality. That's the, hey, no, I built this team the way it is today and I'm going to move forward. And being the smartest guy in the room, you would usually blame your losses on somebody else. So when they say, "Hey, your coach," any concerns there, he's still not like, "Yeah, he's fucking up. We probably need to rethink that." He's like, "Nope, that's my guy, and I'm sticking with him." You know what I'm saying? Like you can't be the smartest guy in the room and then it's failing, and you just sit there and watch the fucking room burn. And that's the Jerry Jones problem. He's fucking way too old. He's got to step away and just and I don't know what that looks like, but it has to transition to somebody else. And but I still go back to the fact that the team is 3-3. The team is third, if you will, in the division. Depending on after today, they could be second in division because if Philly loses, right, is it's not like they're far out. They're a game behind the division leader, and they are 3 games out of the playoff run right now, 6 weeks into the season. Like, what are we talking about? To say that a team is done, we've seen teams turn it around and do great things. And we're seeing a lot of teams this year that are overachieving. So you
Hmm.
got teams like the Bears who are above the Cowboys. You got teams like Washington, our division, that are above the Cowboys. Atlanta is number 2 in the conference. Minnesota is number 1 in the conference. Like we've seen this story before. We've seen it play out. So the fact that anyone can say that about the Cowboys or even the Eagles, like for me to have to shoot bail to the Eagles, the Saints came out. They went 2-0, and people were dick eating because they put up 96 points in 2 games. Those guys are 2-5 right now. Like that's how quickly the season can turn around. So for people to sit there and say that any of these teams, and then when you go to the AFC, similarly, the Jets, the Dolphins, 2-3, 2-4, both of those teams can easily move up in the rankings because you got the Colts that are 3-3 ahead of them. You got the Broncos with a rookie quarterback who looks like trash, 4-3. The Chargers ahead of them that are 3-2. Pittsburgh doesn't know who their quarterback is and they're 4-2. Like there's no way that you can say today in week 7 that any of these teams that are close to 500 or 500 and above are completely out of it. And I just don't get how. I mean, I get it's the shock value because they need to get ratings, but they're wrong.
Can't argue that. I can't argue that.
Um, EJ, you're in Pittsburgh to watch the Jets play the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're gonna actually get to see Russell Wilson live in person. You're going to get to see the Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers rekindle. There was 2 big wide receiver moves this week, that being one of them. The other one, Amari Cooper to the Bills. Both of those impact you guys' division. How do you guys feel about those moves?
I think it's all or nothing for the Jets right now, and we got to get a job tonight. And I think the craziest thing that I heard was that this deal was already, you know, kind of in the works. And when they lost to the Bills by 3 points, 2 missed field goals, they pulled the trigger. Why they didn't pull the trigger before the game, I don't know. But immediately after getting Devontae Adams, seeing Buffalo go get Amari Cooper, looking at the game that they just had with us, is very telling that teams are saying, "Hey, we got to get weaponry in here. We gotta put everything on the shelf. We got to do it now." And it circles back to the Cowboys and the lack of activity. You know, so yeah, I think it's going to be good for us. Going to make us more competitive offensively, which has been a problem. And then you got Tua coming back. So like you said, this division is very much alive, and this week and next is going to be very telling as to what's going to happen going forward.
I mean, I disagree on the Jets a little bit, and obviously I'm biased. I'm a Dolphins fan, and I hate the Jets. But with that being said, the Jets' problems still aren't being recognized the same way the Cowboys' problems, right? The Jets' problem is that they have a quarterback who's eligible to start receiving fucking AARP benefits who can't move. They have an offense that doesn't play in this century. Basically, the NFL offenses today is predicated on motion, pre-snap motion. Aaron Rodgers doesn't like pre-snap motion, which is why he made them hire Nathaniel Hackett as the offense coordinator because he doesn't run that. And it's why the Jets offense doesn't look as good as it can be, given the talent that they have in the backfield and the talent that they have at wide receiver before they even got Devontae Adams. And this is part of the problems with the Jets offense. They have a defense that's very good. They have an offense that is fucking trash. And so, in order to fix the problem, what they did was is they fired the guy who built the great defense that they had, and then went and acquired another weapon or whatever. And I don't think that fixed the problem because you still haven't addressed the largest problem, which is Aaron Rodgers. You're not going to trade him. You're not going to cut him. So fine. But the next largest problem is Nathaniel Hackett. But because Aaron Rodgers is running the team, you can't get rid of Hackett because you didn't piss off Rodgers.
So you think
Well,
it's a systemic issue and
to,
not a personnel issue?
to factually correct this guy, Robert Saleh didn't build any defense. He's gotten a lot of credit for just being a defensive minded coach who happened to be on a team with a lot of defensive talent. Secondly, Jeff Ulbrich, who was the defensive coordinator, who the entire team and personnel and players have said is the reason the defense is so good, is now the head coach. And Nathaniel Hackett essentially has been demoted as the offensive coordinator. And Downing, who uses motion and all of the things that Barry talked about, is now the offensive coordinator. So, aside from two missed field goals versus a Bills team that's always the Super Bowl contender, we would have won last week, and that's okay. We got to get some things right, and we'll see how it looks today. This is going to be a good litmus test today.
Yeah, I feel in the way I look at it, the Jets. I agree. I think VP made some really good points there. That pre-snap motion is a big
Mhm.
one. In today's NFL, you see everybody doing it. There's no reason why Brees Hall should be getting outdone by. Is he a rookie, Allen, or is he a
Jalen
second year
Allen is a rookie. He's a
guy? Okay.
rookie.
No reason Brees Hall should be getting outdone by that guy. I don't know if it's because of the play call. I don't know if it's the looks. I don't know if Brees Hall is just starting to get frustrated or if he's starting to just, fall back a little bit and maybe he just wasn't as talented as we always thought he was. Aaron Rodgers is old. Aaron Rodgers looks bad. Devontae Adams can make him look better, and I do think Garrett Wilson benefits from this if they keep him, which I'm assuming they will. Garrett Wilson moving into the slot is going to be a big thing, but Aaron Rodgers again, smartest person in the room. We see Garrett Wilson talent over there. We see Brees Hall talent over there. Why is Alan Lazard the guy leading in targets? Why is Alan Lazard the guy leading in touchdowns? Why is Alan Lazard leading in yards? Like, I get that's your blankie, that's your best, that's your friend, whatever. But if that's not what's working, you gotta change it up. I think Devontae Adams makes a difference for you guys. I'd like to see how that plays out tonight because you're playing an elite defense. And so that's going to be interesting. But the other move that I think is even bigger for your division is going to, and the fact that the Bills are already 4-2, kind of got a head start on all of you guys, is going to be Amari Cooper going up to Buffalo to a team that seems like, they're just, running on diesel while everybody's running on, 87. they're moving. I don't know how you guys feel about that Amari Cooper trade. I think it's a big deal. And I think it's going to open up even more targets for those tight ends because now you're going to need safety help over the top, and you're going to have those tight ends lined up. They're not going to have safeties lined up on. They're going to end up lined up on linebackers, and they're going to be able to get out there and get open, especially Dalton Kincaid, in my opinion. But how do you guys feel about Amari Cooper joining your division?
I think the Amari Cooper trade was huge. I think it was a bigger deal than the Devontae Adams trade, honestly. And I feel like Buffalo went into the season after trading Diggs thinking, we have enough. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes having enough is you can win with that. We just saw them do it against the Jets with just enough, right? But having a guy like Amari Cooper, a weapon like that, now you go into games and saying we have enough to win. You go and saying we should win. We're gonna win, And the receiver they had, some of these guys were rookies, except
What happened?
Bruh,
kind of
it's like we
vibrating.
heard it. It's like we heard it. Did you hear it? Like
Oh,
somebody.
it might be my phone. Was it my phone?
Yeah, somebody was called getting called.
I forgot what I was. Yeah, they have these rookie receivers and these guys who Josh Allen has never thrown a pass to until this season, and while he hasn't thrown anything to Amari Cooper as well, we've seen how quickly Amari Cooper got acclimated into the Cleveland defense when Dallas made that trade, and I expect the same thing to happen here, and I think it's going to make Buffalo that much harder to beat.
Well, I'm gonna say it impacts our division, and I'm gonna go back, circling back to some things Vari said. I do agree with both of y'all, Aaron Rodgers. I think he's trying to relive something. I think that's why he's been a problem, and Brees Hall hasn't, done well. But I'm not going to go too hard on that. But I'm going to say, watching that game versus Buffalo, our defense is not as good as people thought it was, and I blame Joe Douglas because we had a better run stopping defense last year. We had Al Woods and other guys in the interior, and for whatever reason, Joe Douglas didn't bring these guys back. So you saw a Buffalo team without Cook have a running game, Ty Johnson, other people kind of shred us. So saying that their defense is still pretty stout. It's not as good as it used to be, but it's stout enough. So now you've added Amari Cooper, where even if he's just a distraction, even whatever it's going to be, this is boosting the offense that is pretty damn good. So I think, that was a pivotal move for them and getting things going and keeping some consistency. And I think the only thing that's going to stop them at this point, unfortunately, could be injury. Hopefully, I'd love to see our team get clicking and beat them, but it's going to be pretty tough to stop them now with Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I got to look up when the trade deadline is, but apparently there's some other players out there, and again, from being a Cowboys fan, I hope there's some trades to be made if Alvin Kamara is in fact out there, because there was reports saying that he asked for a trade. He came out yesterday and said that that's not true. But the Saints have been marginal for the most recent years, so I could see that happening. There's guys out there like Max Crosby who basically said, "I'm not here for a rebuild. Like, I want to win." And the Raiders look like they're going into rebuild mode, so it's very possible that he's on the move. I don't know that he makes it to the Cowboys. He's very expensive, but that might be somebody that the Jets look at. I don't know what the cap looks like, cap situation, but I'm sorry, not the Jets, the Dolphins. I mean, that's a guy that you can use, that the Dolphins, I think, can use to get better. But I do feel like, of the three of us, there's two teams that ain't done shit in free agency or in the trade market as of right now, that need to get moving if they're going to try and get better and make a run this year. We'll see if Tua makes it back next week. The
He already
report
was
Well,
in the trade.
reports say he's going to start practicing this week, and then he plans to start playing next week. He's been cleared and all of that.
Yeah.
Do you guys think he comes back in game shape? Do you guys think he comes back and hits the ground running? Do you think it's going to take a week or two? I mean, it can't go anywhere but up as far as timing goes. I mean, we've seen Tyreek Hill look like, you know, a freaking backup wide receiver since Tua went out. So as well as Waddle. So I could see him making an immediate impact. It's just I don't know if you guys feel like he's gonna be the Tua that we saw early in the year.
No, I think he will. To your earlier question, the trade deadline is November 5th. Um,
Okay.
at 4 p.m. November 5th, Eastern Standard. But I think Tua will be fine to come back. Tua didn't need to go on IR. Tua went on IR for PR purposes. And the reason why I say that is that typically when a player is in concussion protocol, you don't see them traveling with the team because they say that like all that pressure and stuff like that they
Cabin
put on
pressure.
planes and
So
those kind of things, it could
mhm.
affect the person that's dealing with concussion symptoms. And we've seen Tua traveling with the team since his concussion. From everything that I've heard from sports people who report on the Dolphins, it seems like Tua's been ready to go from the jump, but the team worried about all of the stuff that they took after the 2022 concussion, put him on IR to avoid the media shitstorm should something have happened if they let him come back the following week because he seemed like he was ready to go from the jump.
So I think that's probably true, and also bodes well for my fantasy team in one of my leagues that I have them. But long term, though, what are we talking about as far as to his health? Like, should we be concerned about this guy's health going forward?
I mean, obviously we should, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, him and the team have to make the decision. The team has decided that they're willing to keep rocking, and he's decided that he wants to keep playing. So I mean, I don't know how much it is that we can do from a team standpoint. What I can tell you is that the team built to his contract in a way thinking about things like this because I told you guys before, the only thing I mean, you guys know this, but the only thing that's important in the contract is the guaranteed money. So Tua's contract is 4 years, 200 and something $1 million, 170 something million guaranteed, whatever the numbers are, right? But the way that Tua's contract is structured, all but $3 million of the guaranteed money will be paid out after next season. So if the Dolphins decide that, you know what, we didn't do well this year, there's a quarterback, whether it's Cam Ward, Shador, whoever, that is available to us, and they want to bring in a quarterback, they can do so and not feel wedded to Tua because they've structured his contract in a way to pay out all that guaranteed money in the first 2 years so they can move on from them if they want to.
Nah, I was speaking more so in the sense that on this podcast, we've always talked about people not knowing when it's enough to protect themselves, protect the person from themselves. All of this shit. This is the you champion. Protect the player from themselves. Protect the person from themselves. When does somebody protect Tua from themselves?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think you're right, but I don't know, man. It's tough because you have we obviously know CTE is a thing and the impacts of it later in life, etc. But you have this dude saying, I'm gonna keep playing. The doctors are saying, he should be fine and that kind of thing like that. So I don't know. I think that it might need to be a situation where the team steps in and just say, you know what, if you want to keep playing football, we get it, but we don't think you can keep playing. Or not that we don't think we're not going to be responsible for what happens health wise later in your life, and so we're not going to let you play football here, and we'll just pay the financial cost of doing of us walking away from your contract or whatever. And if somebody else wants to let you play, that's on them, but consciously we can't do it.
I'm not sure if I love any sport or profession or anything that I like to do enough to risk the potential long-term effects that unfortunately he may see. Like, I think he's being selfish to himself and his family. I don't blame the team because what's the team going to do? Like, if this guy says he wants to play and they want to play and he wants to play, then let it happen, right? They got money invested. I do blame him and I do blame his family if nobody's standing over there saying, "Hey, look, what are we doing here? What's the goal?" And maybe they are. and maybe he's just being selfish. But he's got a young child. Like, you got to think beyond this year now. Oh, I feel fine right now. Yeah, you feel fine right now. But we saw Antonio Brown take one hit that has changed the whole trajectory of the way he's been thinking. Anybody who's ever played on the Steelers while he was there said that he's a whole different person than what he was at the beginning of his career before he took that hit. And Tua's taken a few of those now. And I don't mean that it's going to change him and make him, wild and crazy, but the CT can settle in. Now, on the other side of it, I think of it like this. I think of all the old school players and all the players that we hear that say, I've played with a concussion plenty of times. I knew I was concussed and I was able to act it out and I was fine, right? So there are probably people out there that have played with many concussions, maybe more than, and we see Troy Aikman, right? Troy Aikman retired because of concussions, but he had just as many, if not more, than Tua, and he seems okay, right? But is the risk worth it, right? Is the juice worth the squeeze if I'm Tua at this point? You made your money, you have a name. Like, from a personal standpoint, I just think it's a decision he has to make. And maybe he's telling himself, all right, I'm going to give it one more go. And if this happens again, then that's it, right? But I don't know that I could watch myself laid out like that multiple times and then be like, all right, it's fine. It's the risk. It comes with the job. Like, I don't know about that personally.
No, I hear you, and I think that you're right in everything that you said. The only thing that I would say is I think that it's easy for us, like on the sideline, on TV shows, podcasts, etc., to say those kinds of things when we haven't done a thing in our life where it's like we have essentially trained our mind and body since we were 5 years old to do this one thing and then to attain it and then have to say, but I got to walk away, you know? And I, with I can understand the difficulty in that. I think he's making the wrong decision. Don't get me wrong, but I can understand the difficulty that comes with something like that.
Well, I've talked to you guys about this before. I don't know how much credence you put into it, but playing up until college and even doing higher education research, athlete walking away from sports is kind of like losing a family member. It is a very hard thing to separate from. And you got a guy like Tua who's very prideful, and like you said, has been working on this his whole life. Um, and not only just the concussions, but he's had other injuries since college. So it's not even just the concussion thing. How long is your body going to hold up with this? And unfortunately, these guys are warriors and it's how they're wired. But like we always say, even when it comes to combat sports, boxing, whatever it is, at some point, somebody's going to have to save you from yourself. It's just what it is.
Yeah. And
You
and,
can't
and
do
from
it.
that from that standpoint, EJ, I think you're right. I mean, physically, I think these guys probably don't worry as much because they look at it like, okay, yeah, I might walk like Kenny Smith when I get older, but I'll still have had my career or whatever. But like, there's nothing that's gonna help your brain. You know what I mean? Like, you can't get like brain braces or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, once it's done, it's done. And and we can't not think about, to use that double negative, the financial impact, right? Because for Tua, if Tua were to walk away, he leaves a bunch of money on the table, and I have to imagine that is factoring into this decision, is that he needs to be let go in order to keep the money, whereas if he walks away, then the money's just basically voided.
Yeah, yeah. I
And,
mean,
and
we'll
we're talking
watch it.
about almost $100 million.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot for me to risk.
I don't know, man.
The strippers out
I
here risking it all for less.
the what?
The strippers out here risking it all for less.
They not they not getting concussions unless they fall down the pole. All right. Well, we'll see how that pans out. I know that there's guys like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, shit, A Chain. Everybody, Dolphins fans that are like that we need this guy back because that offense looks absolutely terrible, man. And you know, I don't know that I don't know where I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what the problem is because they can't even run the ball. I mean, they snuck one out last week, but they still look bad.
Cheated against the
So
Patriots. I hate to say it, but they cheated. But it felt good to watch the Patriots get cheated for once.
they come back next week against an Arizona team that's not a great defense. I think that's a good start for somebody that's been out for 4 weeks as a quarterback. So we'll see. We'll see what Tua brings to the table. For those guys. This week we got the New England Jacksonville game going right now. Jacksonville is up 22-10. Trevor Lawrence, the Golden Boy, is 9 of 10, 131 and a touchdown. May is 13 of 18, 109 and a touchdown. And Jaguars just had a punt return for a touchdown. Otherwise, that score would be a lot closer. Notable games this week versus going through all of them. A lot of junky games. Like Buffalo plays Tennessee, Cincinnati and Cleveland's divisional. Cleveland looks like they may be tanking this year to try and get somebody to replace Deshaun Watson. They're probably looking for an out. Don't be surprised if another 10, 20, 30, or 50 women don't come out and say Deshaun Watson did something to them so that Cleveland can get out of that contract. Houston and Green Bay is going to be a good game for me, I think. That's supposed to be high scoring. Jordan Love came back. He's looking better. Houston's looking good. They did lose Nico Collins. That game is in Green Bay. Houston's 5-1. Green Bay is 4-2. You guys have any thoughts on that game?
Gonna be a good game. I think it's gonna be interesting to see where Jordan Love, feels coming back and getting in the rhythm. Houston's defense, I think, is real questionable. I think Green Bay is gonna pull that one out.
Detroit, Minnesota divisional game. Minnesota's undefeated 5-0. Detroit's 4-1, coming off of a slaughter of the Cowboys, but they knew they was in a fight because Hutchinson left, bad injury. And guess what? That's what you get for touching our quarterback, and that's what you get for being assholes. Like, listen, man, you never want to see anybody get hurt. You never want to see anything like that. But to me, that is absolute karma. They keep holding on to that one play from last year where they allegedly had a penalty that stopped them from tying a game or winning the game or whatever that looks like. So here they go last week trying to troll, throwing the ball to linemen and having linemen line up out as wide receivers. Well, guess what? Fuck your player that got hurt. That's what he get, and y'all did it to him. So fuck Detroit.
Nasty. That's nasty. I got Detroit beating
Karma.
Minnesota. Though. I got Detroit beating Minnesota. I don't. I watched them play the Jets. Sam Darnold still Sam Darnold. Hey there. He's Sam Darnold still Sam Darnold, and I think that'll be exposed even worse today. I got Detroit beating Minnesota handily today, ending that 5-0 nonsense.
I think that Detroit should win that game. I think they will win the game, but sometimes you get teams that get on these runs and they make magic happen. And Sam Darnold is Sam Darnold, but the defense is playing well. Defense is playing very well. If Brian Flores wasn't still actively involved in suing the NFL, I would probably be saying at this point, he's probably going to get a head coaching job again. But I think while he's still actively suing the league for racial discrimination, I don't see that happening. But
if I was Brian Flores, I would want to land on the Jets just to get back to Miami.
But I think Detroit will win, but it wouldn't surprise me if Minnesota won, given how well the defense is playing. Just to your Deshaun Watson point, real quick about them tanking to potentially bring somebody else in. While that's very possible, I'm just not sure how likely it is. Just because I pulled up the contract on Spot Track, and he has 2 more years left on that deal, and a cap hit of 72.9 million in 2025 and 2026. There's also another year in 2027 that'll only be a $26 million cap hit, but they can void that based on the last restructure of the contract that they did. And the contract is eligible to be restructured next season and this 2025 and 2026. So it's possible that if they did another restructure, they could do something with the 2026 money in order to get it off the books, so that way they can move on from him after 2025. But the contract is just not team friendly unless they were to restructure some kind of way to move on from. But again, I've said it a million times: the salary cap is not real, so I could definitely see them doing something like that or whatever. But for right now, the way that the contract is set up, I'm just not sure how likely it is they bring in a quarterback with that kind of money on the books.
Yeah. I don't know that it makes sense though, even still, for them to just sit there. Like, how much longer can you take this
Yeah.
losing, regardless of how much money you have tied up in this guy? Like, sometimes you may need to just cut your losses, or if they can, if they can draft somebody young early on. I mean, they cleared out the Amari contract, but if they can draft somebody young who's going to be on a rookie deal, that rookie deal being slightly low at the quarterback spot is better than, or kind of offsets that high quarterback contract. And if you get 2 years out of him before you, maybe this rookie pans out 2 or 3 years before you got to pay him, then Watson falls off and you do all right. Nick Chubb is supposed to be back potentially today. I don't know, man. That team just, it doesn't look like they're gonna win many games. They got injuries. They've traded away their best player on offense. If I'm other teams, I might even be calling them to see if Myles Garrett is available. Like,
Yeah.
is it selfish now for the Browns to keep Myles Garrett and just let him, die over there as a Brown? Similarly to Max Crosby in Las Vegas. Like, at what point you say, hey, do you want to go somewhere else? And if he says yes, you might need to go ahead and explore those options.
I mean, it seems like the team, especially getting rid of your biggest weapon, it seems like they are alluding to a rebuild coming, and so you might as well, if you can, trade away Myles Garrett. I mean, the team's been trash for so long. I don't think the fans get that pissed off. Trade the thing, trade Myles Garrett. I don't know if there's a market for Nick Chubb. I mean, Cowboys obviously need a running back, but him coming back off a catastrophic knee injury, I'm not sure there's a big market for Chubb. Um, you got Njoku that they could potentially trade away. He's a good tight end, and build up those draft picks, and maybe even a way that you can trade a guy like Chubb to a team like the Cowboys is because of the things that I just said about Watson's contract. You trade him away for a 2026 pick instead of a 2025. And so that way you're telling them, hey, you're getting Nick Chubb, and it's not like it's going to hurt you in your draft next year because you still got next year's picks. We want something for 2026. And then you redo the deals so that way after 25 you can walk away from this dude. And then you got a bunch of picks as well as a bunch of salary cap coming back into your pocket to try to start making this team better, because it's Deshaun Watson is a shell of himself.
And if Nick Chubb looks decent today, I'm not mad at someone taking a flyer on him, including the Cowboys, because I want to say, if you still have the site up, I want to say his contract is done after this year. So if you
Chubb?
take a flyer, if you take a flyer and it doesn't pan out, then it's fine. He's just gonna fall off anyway. You know what I mean? So I'm not mad at that if they go out and if he looks good today, and that's probably why they want to try and get him back today. They figure maybe they get him back today, they get him back next Sunday or next week, wherever they play. If he has 2 decent weeks, then they can try to get him off their books by November 5th and get something in return, because he's older. I want to say he's 31 or something like that. Like, you gotta let these older guys go, man. Let them go try and compete somewhere.
Yeah. So Chubb is 29, and this is the last year on his deal. He's an unrestricted
Yeah,
free agent, and his
yeah.
cap hit is only $6 million. And I mean, half the season, not half the season, but I mean, we're 6 games into the season, or 7 weeks into the season already. So, almost half of that has been paid out already. So it's not even like the Cowboys, if they were to make that move, would be absorbing a huge amount. I'm talking about like $3.1 million basically for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, just some phone calls that people need to make, man. I really think that Cleveland is selling, and there needs to be some buyers out there. Definitely some teams. I mean, you guys should probably be calling about Garrett. If
Yeah.
hey, look, we'll figure something out. We need this guy.
I've
So
heard that we have interest in Crosby from the Raiders, but I'm also hearing that like you hear people say the Raiders are in rebuild. They're saying no, that we're definitely not rebuilding, but you just trade away Devontae Adams.
dog, you're
um,
rebuilding, and
yeah,
even if you don't know you're rebuilding, you have Gardner Minshew as your quarterback. Like, you are in a rebuild, and your number one
exactly,
wide receiver is Jacoby Myers. Like, what are we talking
right,
about here? They got to
exactly.
cut it out.
So
Um,
I heard we have interest in Crosby, but I don't know if like anything has actually happened on that front.
gotcha. All right. Um, let's see other notable games. Kansas City, San Fran this afternoon. KC is 5-0. San Fran is 3-3. This is in San Francisco. Got the battle of the referees on both both sides of that ball. I think personally, I feel like San Fran can sneak this one out. They're getting healthy, except for CMC. I think they got Jordan Mason back this week. They've got Debo back. They're looking healthy. Their defense looks good still, of course. And Kansas City is not getting any healthier. And I'm surprised they're not out there buying wide receivers right now as
Yeah.
well. Uh, I don't I don't think that I don't put it past them to do it before the end of the season. Maybe the Rams decide they get rid of Cooper Cup, before the end of the trade deadline or whatever. Very possible that he could be someone that lands in Kansas City, but they certainly should be out there looking for somebody for Mahomes to throw the ball to, because 5-0, they started off good, but I don't know that they could sustain it. As good as he is, I'm not sure that they sustain that level of play without having pass catchers.
No, I agree with you, but I also wonder if um there's something I used to tell like my young family members when they would like the ones who've gone to college, and I would say you got to lock in good habits when you first get to school in that freshman year, because you're taking those easier classes as a freshman. Maybe you were out partying the night before, test comes up, and you're like, oh my god, I didn't study at all. And then you take the test and you get a B, and you're like, oh, bet I'm not gonna do that again, though. But I'm glad I made it through. And then you do it again because that bad behavior was rewarded with a good result. But then you get
Mm-hmm.
into your junior senior year, classes are harder now, the work is more intense, and you do that same crap because you've locked in those bad habits. And now instead of getting a B on the test, you got like a D minus, barely survived an F, and
Right.
you're like, oh man, what the hell? I used to be able to do this, or. And I think the point I'm making with that kind of tortured analogy is with Kansas City. You trade away Tyreek, and then you win the Super Bowl with receivers that most people probably can't even name. And then the team that people said was worse than that team, the team that you won a Super Bowl with after trading away Tyreek, you won another Super Bowl. And so I think there's like a thing where they go in thinking, yeah, we got this. People are saying our receiving core is bad, but we won a Super Bowl with less. You know what I'm saying? and so I wonder how much of that is playing into them not making a move, given that you see all these premium wide receivers that are available for trade.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see, man. But everyone's getting better in the AFC, or attempting to get better in the AFC. Those the Jets, regardless of what we think of Rodgers, they brought in a historical talent at wide receiver, and the team that they should be worried about, which is the Bills, they also brought in talent, and then Baltimore is now hitting a stride, right? So if I'm Kansas City, I don't know that Xavier Worthy is my guy. You know what I mean?
Mm.
He's fast. He's a rookie, but I don't know that you can do it, especially with Kelsey not uh, looking like the Kelsey that we know. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them make a move. Something maybe even if they just go out to Denver and try to get Cortland Sutton, who they said may be on the move from over there as well, because a wide receiver that's good with Patrick Mahomes is very good or great. You know, a wide receiver whose marginals should be pretty good. And I think Cortland Sutton is a good wide receiver. And all except for Juju Smith Schuster tend to work out with what's the dude that's not in the league anymore, the Giants drafted, that kept dropping balls. Dropped a big
Oh,
one
I know,
for
I know
Kansas
you're talking
City.
about. I can't think of his name right now, but I know
Yeah.
you're talking about.
So um but anybody else should be able to work out. So I think San Francisco can sneak that game out today, and I think both teams that are undefeated may end up not undefeated after this week, being Kansas City and Minnesota, if things go well. And then the last game I think that's decent to speak of is the Baltimore Tampa Bay game. Baltimore is starting to look like the team people thought they were, and Tampa Bay
Mhm.
looks like the team that everyone thought other teams were. Right? They're looking like who people thought the Cowboys were, if you will. They're 4-2. Baker Mayfield looks really good. Mike Evans looks great. They found a way to get their running game going with three good running backs, three young guys, and that's going to be a good game tomorrow night. It's a Monday Night Football game. I don't know how you feel about the Baltimore Tampa Bay game, but I'm interested in watching that game. I think it's going to be a really good game.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a good game too. I think Baltimore should pull it out, but you can't sleep on this Bucks team. They're playing very well. Baker looks like he's renewed his career basically. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be a good game, but I think Baltimore pulls it out.
Yeah. I'm gonna roll with Tampa Bay just because they're the home team, and I think they know how to tackle. So Derrick Henry might, as good as he's looked the last few weeks, I think he gets slowed down a little bit by Tampa Bay. They got a good, defensive line. They got a good defense in general, but their defensive line is pretty stout. So um, we'll see how that looks.
Man, I know you don't watch
Uh,
college, man, but I know you don't watch college, but that Miami Louisville game yesterday was very good, man.
are
It
those
was
two ranked teams?
No, Louisville's not ranked, but they probably were the team that the Hurricanes were concerned the most about on their schedule. They played
Okay.
better than their record is, and I mean it just looked like I don't. It looked like both teams didn't practice any defense this week because they were just
Uh,
going score for score, and I mean crazy plays, crazy drives, and then finally late in the game, what changed the game was the Miami team finally came up with a defensive stop, and that defensive stop was like the ball was like on the 3. They ran it, they hit the running back and forced a fumble, and the ball landed in the end zone, and Miami recovered in the end zone for a defensive touchdown off a fumble recovery, and then they didn't really look back from that point.
so high scoring game. What's Miami's record looking like right now?
They're undefeated. They're 7-0.
Oh, okay. So they're ranked pretty high then.
Yeah, they're ranked 6.
Oh shit. All right.
They should move up because Alabama was ranked 7, but they lost yesterday. I'm not sure how the rest of the teams went, but
How's
we'll see.
Alabama losing so much? I thought they were like historically some powerhouse.
Yeah, I mean I don't know what's happening, but I mean when you're that good, you get everybody's best shot. So they played Vanderbilt last week. They probably slept on them, and Vanderbilt was like, "This is our Super Bowl." So
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. That's the type of thing that we're running into. We keep running into everybody's A game. Um 16 days VP until election day.
yep,
16 days. When does early voting start here in Florida?
tomorrow,
Tomorrow. Okay.
tomorrow in-person early voting starts in Florida through the 3rd.
Man. did not catch that. Looked like there was another touchdown in the Jags game, but that was not a catch. Or he was out of bounds. All right. So, how do you feel about things as they stand today?
As it stands
If
today,
if the
I
election
would.
started today, what do you think happens?
If the election were today, I think that Harris would win. I'll put it this way: I'm still nervous, and I think it's just because that's just how Democrats is how we are. But I would rather be us than them. Um, Harris is ahead in the national polls, and she's slightly ahead in the swing states that are going to decide the election in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Um, the things that look good for her are some of the early vote numbers that are coming out of places like Pennsylvania. Georgia early vote is they're smashing records. Over 1 million people in Georgia have voted. Looking at the areas that the vote is coming from bodes well for Kamala Harris.
Mhm.
Um, um, the Democratic Party for years has been pushing people to vote early because one, part of the reason why voting early matters is that you get all those text messages and things like that. Hey, you didn't turn your ballot in, you didn't do this, boo boo boo. These are people trying to turn you out, right? To vote or whatever, voter turnout. Once you vote, your name comes off the list, and there's no need for them to reach out to you anymore about voting because you've already voted, and they can then turn those resources to other people. So people who are high frequency voters like me and you, folks who vote every election, once
Mhm.
we voted, they can now turn their attention to people who are less frequent voters and try to get them to either vote early or to try to get them out on election day or whatever. And so, the more early vote that you bank from your side, the better things look for you. That one, you've already banked a bunch of votes, and two, you can spend more time and resources trying to acquire new votes, essentially. So the early vote numbers in a lot of the swing states look very promising um, for the Democratic ticket. But again, you don't know how any of these people vote, but just based off
Right.
what we know about the voters who voted, it looks good um, for Harris. But again, that doesn't mean anything. The early vote looked good for Clinton or whatever, but we'll see what happens. But like I said, to start this off, I would rather be us than them at right now.
Yeah, it just seems like the closer and closer we get, and the more time goes by, the worse Trump is looking.
Hmm.
And the fact that I just feel like there's nobody in his corner saying, "Hey, just stop talking," or talk as minimal as possible, like speak just a little bit, because um the steam that I think he had, a lot of the steam that he had is been let out of the out of the pot, and he's looking. I mean, he's always looked bad, but now he's looking like he's on life support. And that's physically he looks bad. The things that he's saying, he's rambling. He's always rambled, but now it's just like it's not even just like, oh, we got bad people coming in and the border's not secure. Now he's just saying shit like the shit he said this week about Lincoln. Like it's just crazy. So
Forget
I
about
think it's
Lincoln. He went on a 10-minute story talking about Arnold Palmer's dick.
and that.
So you know what I mean? Like man, this guy Arnold when he went to the pro shop, man, this guy was fucking hung. I mean, he didn't say those words, but I mean that's essentially what he was saying. Like
Yeah.
like people treat this guy as if you know he's a serious person, and he's not. And the shit that's so sad is that this dude is running for president and has a legitimate shot of winning, and you keep being gaslit by the people around him, the people who support him into, oh, this guy he's so smart, he's so competent, he's so energetic, he's this, and it's like this dude is canceling interviews left and right because his staff says he's exhausted, right? He, like you said, he rambles, he talks, he goes on it's like he has this like non-tangential thinking or whatever, where or tangential thinking where his mind can't focus on one subject. It's like, and and he tries to excuse, like, I call it the weave. Yeah, I start off talking about immigration, and then I end up talking about Lincoln, and then World War II, and then electric vehicles and sharks, but then I come right back to immigration. So that was perfect. It's like it's insane that this person is taken seriously, man. And like I said last night, talking about Arnold Palmer, about the size of his dick. You like that literally was a thing last night or whatever, and then I
Well, you
saw
can't
this
be
morning.
overly surprised because that's how his that's his base. You know what I mean? Like his base, those it's those types of people that support him that they like to hear that stupid stuff. The way they're looking at it is, oh, he's just one of us. He's just, he's an American. He likes to go to the to the golf range. He likes to play sports. He's a locker room guy. He just happened to get a glance at it, and he just chatter. That's how he is. Like that's how they look at this stupid shit. It's really unfortunate that there's even a chance there for him to win. But Kamala's on the trail. Barack has been out. I wonder if Joe Biden, now would be a good time for him to send a hurricane to some of these red states, since he's got control over the weather and all, send another one, right? Maybe he's waiting, until the day before election day to send it down here in Florida or something because,
I mean, hurricane season runs through the 30th, so maybe he got one on standby for November 3rd or something. We'll see.
yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, Obama's been out there. He was in Nevada and Arizona yesterday. This week, him and Michelle will be campaigning for Kamala. I think they're supposed to join Kamala this week. I don't know if it's at the same event or if she's going to be with Barack in one city and Michelle in another city. But both of them will be out there with her this week. Bill Clinton was in Georgia this past week for Kamala. And so they're all hands on deck. Even Biden did an event for her. It was a very small event, wasn't really picked up by a lot of folks. Most people, since he's got out, he's basically just been ignored. So, but he did an event for. I don't even know where it was at, but it was like at one of these like union halls or whatever. Because he gets a lot of union support, and these unions seem to be keeping Kamala at arm's distance, which I think that kind of tells you all you need to know that um um the Biden administration has been one of the best presidencies for unions. They get behind unions. Biden and Kamala Harris both went out on picket lines doing strikes. The Teamsters, their unions were or their pension benefits were in jeopardy of going bankrupt, and Biden got a deal done through the Congress to backstop those pensions. So those people are still getting their checks to this day because of the efforts of Biden's administration. And then when Kamala Harris asked for their endorsement, they wouldn't give it. The Teamsters and then their president of their union spoke at the RNC, and
Well, she's a
uh,
woman.
I
I
don't
mean,
even think that it's just that she's a woman. I can't not think about the racial aspect of it, of where she's a Democrat or whatever, and it's not like she's Democrat who was like the governor of Colorado and is like, oh, we don't really know this person, we don't really have a relationship with them or whatever. We're not just giving her our support because she's a Democrat. The administration that she's in literally save your pensions. And I'm not sure if this was one of those bills that came down to a 50-50 tie and the vice president had to break the tie on it. So I don't know if she literally voted for it or not, but this administration saved your asses or whatever. And you're not even showing them the support that they need in order to help her win this election. Now, again, that's the national union. A lot of the locals have came out and said, I don't know what the hell the national folks are doing, but the local in this state, in this city, in this county, etc. You've had hundreds of them of local Teamsters unions that have endorsed Kamala Harris, but it's the national folks that haven't. And I think that a lot of that has to do with race, because a lot of those people in those union shops are white folks.
Yeah, I think there's three parts to it for me, right? When you talk about that, one, she's a woman. And regardless of how far we think we've come, it's America and men, right? Like men are men. We don't deal well with power from other men, let alone dealing well with power from a woman. So if you're one of those people that believe, and I think there's a lot of people that believe that when there's a place for women, right, and anywhere below, I'll be fair and say Maryland, pretty much I think thinks that, has a bunch of people that think that, and I see it every day. See it every day. Being in middle management for a very large corporation, I see people every day that don't deal well with authority from women. Black, of course, we know that. So she's got 2 strikes against her. And then the third strike, I think we always talk about is they're not. You need to come out like a bottle girl, not Kamala. What I'm saying is the Democrats need to come out like bottle girls at the strip club when they get these big things passed. Most people may not even know. I mean, I'm sure the people that are part of Teamsters that are in these unions know, but an everyday person, if Trump had did that, let me tell you something. He would have sent them letters. Like it would have been like on every single check that came from their pension would have been like brought to you by Donald J. Trump. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
this is the type of thing that I think is an opportunity for Democrats. And I get that, it's just not the way things go, but sometimes you got to go away from the norm. And so I think
Nah,
that's the three things there for me.
I think that you're right, especially on that last point. Democrats don't do a good job of selling the things that they've done. They just kind of look at it like these are the things that government is supposed to be doing. We've done them, and now we moved on to the next thing. And then now you're telling people, "Hey, it's been 4 years. It's time for the re-up," and people are like, "What have you done?" So
Exactly. That's
um,
exactly what it is.
yeah, so I think that you're definitely I think that you're definitely right there. In terms of like the folks who might have a problem with female leadership, I mean, over the years I remember we used to hear the stuff like, you know uh um you know what if she gets her period and nukes Russia or something like that. Kamala is almost 60 years old. Actually, her birthday's today. Happy birthday, Madam Vice President. But so she just turned 60, so she's post-menopausal, so she shouldn't be having periods, so you don't got to worry about that. She's not having any kids or whatever because she's too old now, so you don't got to worry about her getting pregnant and going on maternity leave and all this other bullshit that people can say that they worry about having a female leader could put the country in peril if these things happen. So you could take those things off the table or whatever. And you know,
They still be
um,
they still be moody though. Women do be moody though.
oh my god. But yeah, I think that like I said, I would rather be us than them. And people have to understand. I saw a thing yesterday from a guy who's a state rep in Pennsylvania, and he was basically saying, you get the government that you work for, and um we we as a country, not we like a me and you, but we took a flyer on Trump. What the hell do you have to lose? Remember he said that in Chicago to black voters.
Mhm.
What the hell do you have to lose? Or whatever, just give me a shot.
Yeah, it can't
And
get
we did
worse. You're
that.
already in the ghetto.
Right. And we did that and we saw what happened or whatever. And so we now understand that there's a lot to lose. We lost over 1 million people due to COVID. Some of that happened under Biden's administration. But I would argue that had the pandemic been treated like an actual pandemic from the start, that we would have seen less people killed under Trump and then as well as under Biden. This is something that Obama talked about yesterday, where he talked about when you look at per capita, Canada lost 40% less people than we did in the United States because they treated this thing like a serious health problem from the jump. And when you talk about that, when you look at how many people died in the United States, 40%, we're talking about over 400,000 people in this country who may have been saved if we treated this thing like a serious health crisis rather than, some kind of joke or whatever. Women, you've lost your reproductive freedom. in this country. You know, you know, there's a lot to lose. So I don't think people should go out there thinking like, oh, you know, let's see what happens or whatever. You know, this shit is not a joke.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the hope is that you got a lot of Republicans that are like, "Oh, I'm not rocking with Trump," and you hope that the people that support them and their base or followers either don't vote or vote the other way. You know what I mean? Obviously, the sunny day situation would be for them to vote the same way as the person that they support, right?
Hmm.
Which would be voting Democrat, but you know, take what you get. If it means that they don't show up at all, then that's one less vote. So, um,
Something I've
we'll
seen a
see.
lot of. I don't know how much I believe it. I don't know if you've seen this at all. Like I haven't seen it like in my personal life, but I see it talked about in the media. It's these Republicans who are gonna vote for Harris. They're just not willing to say it because they don't want to deal with their neighbors and friends and their group of friends who are Republicans that support Trump. So it's I'm a Republican, but I'm not like putting myself out there saying I'm voting for her. I'm just gonna go in the booth in the privacy of my home when I get my ballot by mail, or in the privacy of my voting booth when I show up on election day or early voting, whatever. And I'm gonna pull the lever for Kamala and just keep that to myself or whatever and keep it moving because I can't deal with this guy or whatever. I don't know how real that is, but it's something that I hear a lot from like Republican officials, like on TV when they say they talk to people at some of these like these Republicans, like trying to get other Republicans to support Harris events or whatever. So you know, again, like I said, I don't know how much of that's true. We saw that in Georgia last time. You had a lot of Republicans who voted for Biden. They voted Republican all the way down the ticket, except for in the presidential. And they said, I can't do it anymore with this guy. And so, does that voter still exist this cycle? You know, will in places like Georgia, in Arizona, you have some people who think Texas is in play. I don't believe Texas got to show me. I don't believe it. I think
No,
Texas is more of a 2032 thing in terms of the demographic change that'll flip the state blue. But you know, do we see that in North Carolina, in Arizona, in Georgia? People who are Republicans who say, I can't deal with this shit anymore. The people in North Carolina who say, in our greatest hour of need, this dude lied to us and told us that FEMA was trying to steal our houses and you know ship us out of there so they can steal our land instead of helping us or whatever. The people who told us that they spent all the FEMA money on immigrants or instead of hurricane relief or whatever. I can't vote for that guy. You know, we'll see.
the problem is those people are so skeptical, man. Like, and I think you're right. I think there are some out there. I think there's a lot, but they don't believe the shit. Like they it is a cult. It's in fact a cult because you say, hey, look, this is a video of your guy saying this. Well, he had good intentions. He
It
never
was
said
AI.
that. What are you talking? That's AI. That's woke news. That's what. So that's the problem. I think where you win some of these, and I think Florida is probably more of a chance than Texas. But I think where you could win some of these weird states and counties is going to be the people that did relocate during. I mean, because a lot of people have relocated since COVID and during COVID because of all
Hmm.
this remote work, right? So Carolina, especially South Carolina, and I know South Carolina is super, super, super duper 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 red everywhere you look, but it is super cheap, as is North Carolina in comparison to and not Charlotte, but the suburbs of them comparison to the New Yorks and stuff like that. And so with this remote work option that people have, that's where you're seeing so many people in Florida. And I think after these hurricanes, you'll start to see some of them kind of get out of here a bit. But I'm wondering if that's going to make a difference this time around because you're going to have those people that moved that were registered Democrats elsewhere that are now bringing their vote here. I don't know that there's going to be that many, but any amount can be a help, especially when you have the ones that are just want to stand on the right side of what's right versus just being on the right,
Hmm.
if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
No, I think that's a good point. And that's what makes me worried about, not worried, but like when I hear people in political circles who say they think Florida's in play, it's what makes me think I don't think so, because we had a lot of people who relocated to Florida because Ron DeSantis was saying, "Oh, you got COVID restrictions where you live. Come move to Florida." And you've had
Mhm.
people who moved from, New York and all these like Democratic areas that were saying we're going to take this pandemic serious and close things down or do social distancing, etc., who then relocated to Florida. And so I'm not sure. Again, I hope that she wins Florida, but I'm not. For me, for the stuff that I know about politics, I'm not seeing the pieces line up for what I would want to see and to think that she's going to win this state.
When I
And
drive
I'll do my
around,
part, but I don't know.
of course, when I drive around Central Florida, and Orlando, of course, is Democrat, but I mean, I drive. I work close to Winter Park, and I work in Maitland, right? And so I remember the previous elections, even going back to the Obama elections, and I remember what those yard signs look like. I remember, you could drive down the main road, 430 or 426, Aloma, and all those big houses where those rich people lived were Republicans, and last time you saw all the signs that were Hispanics were Republicans and stuff like that, and this time you're not, and you're seeing a lot of Harris signs. You're seeing a lot of them, and I'm not seeing a lot of Trump. Like, I know in the Potunk, backwoods areas of Florida, they're probably running around with their pickup trucks with the Trump flag on the back, but I saw a lot of that 3.5, 4 years ago. Like, I saw that in Orlando, and I saw that out and about, and you're not seeing that this time around. It's not like in your face like it was before. Like, we always remember, last election, I was sending you guys pictures every time I saw a car with, like, these wild Trump bumper stickers or flying a
Mhm.
flag or something. And while I am seeing it scattered, it's not it's not nearly as much as it was before. So I think there is a chance, man. I think there is hope. I think there is hope
Yeah,
for
I
Florida.
mean, I hope, like, even like I talked about earlier with the early vote data. Florida is one of those states that when they release their early vote data, they also release it based on the party breakdown. And
Mm,
so Democrats have turned in more ballots, or not early vote, I should say, early mail-in vote. There's been more Democratic ballots than Republicans returned. And some people feel that some of those MPAs, those non-party affiliated voters, will break heavily towards Democrats as well. Um, but it's gonna really matter when you start talking about early in-person voting, and then Republicans usually have a big swing on election day, here in Florida at least, just because they've been talked out of early voting and mail voting and things like that with
right.
all this fraud BS or whatever, right? But I also feel like, I mean, you remember '08, you were here just as well as I, and like the energy was just so different when Obama carried the state. And I remember, like, I used to work in that Maitland area where you work at my last job, and I remember I was out on my route, and like, for the work that I did, I was in my vehicle most of the time, but sometimes I had to actually be out on foot, and I was out on foot going down my route doing something, and this woman came out of this house, that little road that's like on the side of the I-4 in Maitland
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
whatever. um
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
this old lady came out of her house, and she was like, excuse me, young man. The lady looked like she probably was about 70, 80 years old, and she was like, are you registered to vote? And I was like, yes, ma'am. And she was like, what do you think about Obama? And I was like, he got my vote, I'm voting for him. And she was like, okay, good. She's like, I just wanted to talk to you about him to see what you think, try to convince you to vote for him. She's like, they just talk about him like a dog. I can't stand it, like, just like old lady talk, And then she
Yeah.
was like, well, thank you, or whatever. I was like, oh, no problem, And so, like, I feel like you had people doing that kind of stuff where it's like you be in the store and it's like, hey, my man, are you registered to vote? And I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I don't go out that much. You know what I mean? I stay. I'm a homebody since I'm disabled and stuff. So maybe it's happening, and I just don't see it because I'm not out there. But like the energy just felt so different in the state in '08, and I don't know if it's that this time.
I don't see any Harris T-shirts like I did with Obama. Like when you was out back then, you seen Obama T-shirts, you seen merch like in Florida like a lot. So
Yeah.
it's not like that. So I don't think it's a guaranteed type thing, but yeah, I think it is. I think it's closer than we think. I do think it's closer than we think.
I hope so.
So we'll see, man. We'll see. It's 2 weeks and 2 days away, basically. People need to start prepping. I just finally got my paperwork in the mail this past week. I know that's late compared to you guys, but yep.
What your
And here we
mail
go.
ballot or your sample ballot?
My sample ballot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they my sample we haven't got it out the mail yet, but I get an email from the post office when like that something's being delivered or whatever. So it should
Okay.
be in the mailbox, but we've already voted. So
I didn't even get my mail ballot yet. I did get
yeah.
my sample, but I haven't gotten my mail ballot.
A friend of mine, my friend from work who listens to the pod, she still hasn't got her mail ballot either. So she
Mm-hmm.
said she's gonna go vote early tomorrow.
It's fine.
It is,
I don't ever mail anyway. I
and
don't
it's why
trust.
I don't trust the mail, so I do my mail ballot and then we drop it off at the supervisor of elections office. I don't mail it back.
That's what I did last time. Now that you mention it, I filled it out and I went and dropped it at the Amway, well, which is
Hmm.
now whatever it is now. But yeah,
Yeah,
down there.
yeah. So because since early voting has started, the only place I could take it was the supervisor election, but I don't ever mail it. I always take it in and drop it off by hand.
Nick Chubb is playing today. Levis is out for Tennessee. That's interesting. Buffalo's gonna
Mm.
beat the pants off of that team today.
They look
Um,
better with Mason Rudolph, honestly.
they do, they do. Just like Indy looks better with Joe Flacco. Like these guys, you know, they're older. They're seeing things better. They've been through it before. And as far as they know, this could be their last hurrah. They weren't even
Hmm.
planning on playing. So, but Mason Rudolph, he's a journeyman, man. He looked good every time, not every time, but a lot of times when he came for Pittsburgh, he looked good. He did look pretty good with Tennessee when he played. But we'll see, man. That might bump DeAndre Hopkins up a little bit for me on some DFS. He might be a little sleeper to
Yeah, that's another guy I'm
score
surprised
touchdown.
people haven't been reaching out about to see if he's available.
I did hear that this week that he is available. I saw that on, I forget where I saw that at, but that he would be available potentially before the trade deadline, which again makes absolute sense. These are guys that, why hold on to him if you can get something back? Tennessee, you're not going to be good before DeAndre Hopkins' contract is up. You will
Right.
not. So go get something for him. If it's a third round pick, then there you go. If you get a couple dollars with it, even better. Otherwise, you're going to sit there with a disgruntled guy, and you're going to lose, and you're going to lose all that money as well and get nothing in return. So
Hmm.
um, these are guys that they need to be on the move, and they can help make differences. And he hasn't been hurt. He hasn't been hit a lot this year because they can't get him the ball. So he'll be pretty healthy if he can get into a decent squad.
Yeah.
Somebody looking for some help. 25-10, Jacksonville leads New England. 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Jacksonville just went for it on fourth down and did not get it instead of kicking the field goal, and that is going to ruin my parlay. I can tell you that right now. I had their kicker for 2 field goals, and that is the
Mm.
last leg of my same game parlay right now. So I figured, oh, they'll kick it. Nope. Doug Peterson is a jerk. They're up 15 in the fourth quarter, dog. Just kick the field goal. Like, what are we talking about here? Make it a 3 possession game, but whatever. You been watching anything new?
For me, not really. Big Brother just finished last week. Really good season of Big Brother. This has probably
That should be
been
going fast.
what happened.
I said that should be going fast.
This the this season, and then I think it was 2 seasons ago, were probably like the best 2 seasons they've had in a while. And the thing about 2 seasons ago was one, you had the year before, it was like this big thing where they were saying like they don't really put a lot of like black people on these reality shows. It's like always just token black people, whatever. And CBS has changed that now. So like when you watch Survivor and Big Brother, instead of it being like all white people and then like the one token black, the one token Asian, and the one token Hispanic person,
Mm.
now it's like evenly divided, so it's 16 people. You got, four whites, four blacks, four, and the Asian people are somewhat mixed. So it might be like an Asian person, an Indian person, or something like that, you know what I mean? And then but they have a good mixture of folks or whatever. And like 2 seasons ago on Big Brother, the black folks was like, there's never been a black person who's won Big Brother, and we need to make sure we get to the end. And so they formed this alliance that they called the Cookout. And they basically, it was like, it was six of them. And then they were like, what we're gonna do, all of us go get with another person or whatever, and we're not bringing them in the cookout. Nobody knows about the cookout, but it's just, we're going to all have another person. So that way we're all getting information from all over the house, and we can use that to our advantage. And
Mm.
they seemingly did that. And so it was like, even if two of them were on the block, it was like they got the other four members of the cookout who's not gonna vote for them to go. Plus, they got those people talking to their outside of the cookout person to help them vote or whatever. You know what I mean? And so, yeah. And so you had two black people made it to the end, and you had the first black winner of Big Brother. And then this year, um, you had two good players. You had the people who played the game the best made it very far. And so you had
Right.
Chelsea, who was just, her game was phenomenal. She was winning competitions strategically, the right alliances. Like, she was playing the game very good socially and physically. And then you had this white girl, Mackenzie, who was playing really well. And then you had this girl named T-Core, another black chick. Mackenzie's white, Chelsea and T-Core black. T-Core was playing very well. T-Core made it to jury, but Chelsea and Mackenzie made it to the end. So it was like, yo, the top two players made it to the end. And so, because sometimes you get these reality shows and it's like, how the hell this person got to the end? You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, so I've been watching that, or I finished watching that, and then Abbott Elementary, I've been watching that too.
I gotta start watching the rest of Abbott Elementary. It's gonna be one of those shows I'm gonna have to slow watch. I heard
It's only 30 minutes, so I mean the episode is only 22 minutes long, so it's an easy watch.
I know, but it's like 4 seasons now, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I heard the new season of on Netflix, the Love, what is that called?
Love is Blind.
Love is Blind. I heard that it's been good. I haven't watched it yet. So I will be doing that. I watched Inside Out 2 yesterday.
Oh man,
That
phenomenal
was
movie.
pretty damn good. They did a really good job with that.
Phenomenal movie, yeah. I love
Finally
the
got
first
around.
one, and the
Yeah.
second one was just as good. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, the second one was good. The first one was I think the first one was just perfect, but the second one I thought that they did a really good job with.
Yeah.
Um
I'm hearing that the Wild Robot,
oh yeah.
I heard it's really good. I haven't seen it obviously, but I heard it's really good. People were saying, like, when you go in there, bring your tissue, you're gonna be crying. So
Oh shit. Well, we went to movies last week. Oh, and that's what I meant to talk about. We went to movies last week and we saw The Joker. And when you say Wild Robot, I believe, oh, touchdown. New England just scored. It is now 16-25 touchdown pass to KJ Osborne. Drake May looks good. He looked good on that drive. We went to see The Joker. Did you know The Joker, the second one, was a musical?
no, I haven't seen it. I haven't even seen the first one yet.
Oh, well, the first one
Every
is
time I
really
get ready
good.
to watch it, I just can't bring myself to do it. I'm just like, because like I thought it was gonna be like a superhero movie, and it's not. It's like
Yeah, it's not superhero at all. Well, the
yeah.
Joker's not a hero.
Well, no, I mean, like, I thought it was gonna be like a kind of like a, like,
Oh, like the villain side of a superhero movie?
yeah, and it seems like it's more of a, like, a story
It's
of,
like an
or not a
origin.
story, but
It's an origin
like
story.
a drama is what I mean.
It is a drama, but it's telling you this the first one, the first Joker was so good. Like that one was really, really, really good. And the way they told the story and how he got to where he is, you could see that leading to be the Joker that you see everywhere else in the comics. Like you can be like, oh,
Yeah.
this is, what kind of led into that. But this new one, man, first of all, this is my fault for not doing the research. I did not know that it was a musical going into it. And apparently that was plastered all over the place. People said that it was on the internet that this was a musical. I am very upset. I mean, I'll tell you, the movie was pretty good if it wasn't a musical.
Hmm.
Like there was just like they would get to these plots, these big scenes, and then Lady Gaga start singing. Like what the fuck? Or they get to like another big scene and then they'll pan off to like his imagination where he's imagining and they're singing. And I'm like, all right, dog, this is it's too much. Otherwise, it was good. I thought it was written really well. There was a lot of action. Um it's slow played and they didn't, you didn't get much at the end where you thought maybe you would see more. They could have done more, but I think if they take out all the musical scenes and condense it a little bit, then they could have made the end of the movie a little bit better. But um yeah, don't go see it in the movies if you're a Joker fan. If you're planning on
Yeah.
seeing it, don't see it in the movies. And for anybody. And if you're planning on watching it, it can wait. You don't have to prioritize it when it comes out. And it's actually getting hammered pretty bad. Critics are hammering it pretty bad because of the musical piece. The first one was so good. So they were like, "Oh, here we go." They turn around and say, "I got an idea. let's make this. Let's make it a musical."
Yeah.
Um, Lady Gaga
I
did
mean,
good. I mean, in her parts where she wasn't singing and she was actually acting, she did well. And Joaquin Phoenix is just, I mean, this guy is just on a whole nother level, man.
yeah, he's a
He
very good actor, man.
he killed it. It's just the musical
Yeah.
piece. It's just
You sometimes you wonder, like, with these directors and stuff, like, or the people who are the folks in charge in the background. Like, some stuff happens and it doesn't make any sense to the viewer. Like, I'll give you an example. Remember Westworld from HBO?
yes.
I just saw a thing on that, and it was like this video about like why Westworld, like what made it go bad. And they were saying, okay, in the first season, they did this whole big reveal about the different timelines or whatever, and people were like really shocked by that. So then in the second season, they decided, oh, that worked so well the first time, let's do it again. But now people are like expecting this or whatever, so it doesn't really work. It's almost like an M. Night Shyamalan where you're always waiting for the big reveal. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
After you saw the Sixth Sense or whatever. Um um so they were like, so that happened in season 2. Then when they get ready when they were going to start film season 3, the place where they filmed the show at, they had like these huge wildfires and they couldn't film there. And so they had to move the locations like to like a city environment. And so they just like, okay, but let's flip the script and make it seem like, some of the robots escaped and now they're like in living in the regular world or whatever. And then that thing people just didn't like. And then they said, okay, people didn't like it last time. Let's double down on it, but we'll make it better or whatever, and it was trash again. And then the show got canceled because it was one of HBO's premier shows that, like Game of Thrones, they were spending $100 million a season on production, but we're only getting 3 million viewers. And they were like, no, when we spend $100 million on Game of Thrones, we got 20 million viewers. We're not spending $100 million for 3 million people to show up. So,
New
and oh, I'm
England did
sorry, I
not.
didn't finish the point. So I wonder if like something crazy happened with the Joker, or is it just the director saying, it'd be really good if we make it a musical? Like,
Yeah, let's try something different. Nobody saw this coming. It was bad, let me tell you. The musical piece, but the movie was good.
yeah,
Effects were good. I'm telling you, they did a good job with that part. It was just too much of
yeah,
that. What else? I still haven't finished the circle. I kind of been trying to slow play it because I don't want it to end. So I watched. Excuse me. I watched another episode. The last episode that I watched was when dang it, I can't remember who got dude with the dogs. Dude with the puppies.
Dogs.
The gay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can't remember his name. I know you're talking about the white guy.
Yeah. He
Yeah,
got
yeah,
voted off. So I think there's probably like one or two more before the finale. So
yeah.
I'll be, you know, but I'm slow watching it, and because I don't want to burn it all. I've been watching the challenge, of course. That's my shit.
Yeah.
One episode behind on that one. Actually, just this week's episode, so I haven't watched it. Another one that I like to save until early in the week.
Man,
So I'll probably
when you
catch
get to the finale of the circle when they do the reunion,
yeah.
that chick, Heather, the one who was catfishing as the rocker dude, Andy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, yeah.
Smoking
Man. You know what's crazy about that? Like, because she said it in the episode that she got voted off. And
and
then
nobody wants her, right?
yeah, and I'm like, yo, this is the only thing I can make of it, right? In the finale, there's like she comes in and you're like, oh my god, yo, but they do a side shot. And I mean, we saw it during the season. She got a fatty. But
Mm-hmm.
they do a side profile shot of her and you see it again. And it's really
It
being shown off in the finale. And so I wonder if because she's like a rocker chick from Tennessee, but she got the fatty because some white dudes ain't with that.
most
And so
she's fat
I wonder
to them.
I wonder I wonder if that's what the problem is or whatever. But I just like the chick's gorgeous, and then the body is like insane. So I
Yeah,
don't understand how she's saying having trouble finding a relationship.
she's
That this doesn't make
searching in the wrong demographic. That's all it is.
that's what it might
Or,
be.
or it could be the
I
B
mean, she's
side of
from
the coin
Tennessee though,
where she,
like
I know, but it could be the other side of the coin where maybe it's not, and maybe look, that's an opportunity. You get on a reality show like that, a pretty big one on a huge network, Netflix, that is. That's an opportunity to, act a little bit. Maybe everything's not real.
yeah,
So,
that's true.
you got to be, she's not going to win, or she knew she wasn't going to win. So that might have been a way also to build her followers, and all of that stuff, right? Sympathy versus just, the people that are going to follow to see the fatty like you.
Yeah.
Um, so there could have been some of that baked into it, but I can't wait to watch it now that you said that. But that thing was thangin'. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that much.
Yeah.
It was thangin'.
Yeah.
This one is much better. This season much better than the last one. Which I think that last one, like you said, that writers strike played it, and then Michelle, she had a bunch of shows coming out, so I don't think she was full into it. But this one has been better.
I don't like
And they
that
got
whole
rid of all those I don't like her either. And they got rid of all of the, perfect, the ones that are all look like perfection. Like these people look like everyday people again.
Mhm.
So yeah. I'm gonna finish it though. I will finish it probably this coming week.
Yeah.
What else did I watch? I think that's it. I think that's all I watched. I'm sure there's some other stuff scattered. I'm still watching Martin at night just because I love Martin, but as I go back, so I'm just like, man, this dude was a genius. It's so funny. It's so funny. And when you're older now, like it's even funnier because you've been through some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So.
I was watching this week Hot Ones, and they had Peter Dinklage, the guy who plays Tyrion, and
Oh yeah.
which he has his new movie coming out on Netflix, which is the reason he was on Hot Ones to promote that. And I'm like, how do you have a dude on? You have one of the biggest characters from one of the biggest shows ever on, and they asked him one question about Game of Thrones. I'm like, that was like you dropped it. I mean, I get it. Like, a lot of people probably thought it was going to be like Game of Thrones heavy. And I'm not saying like that had to dominate the conversation, but that one Game of Thrones questions like that is insane to me.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. They probably could have done better. Definitely could have done better there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch it though.
And the question wasn't
Um,
even like about him. It was about the dude who played Tywin, because he was saying like, is it true that the dude who played Tywin used to come up to you after scenes and like say he's sorry and stuff like that because of the way he had to treat you in the
because he
show. And he
felt
was like,
bad.
yeah, he was like, he would come up to him sometimes and put his hand on his shoulder and just be like, shake his hand, like his head or whatever, because he had to be so horrible to him in the show or whatever. But I'm like, damn, dude, one question about Game of Thrones, like, come on now.
I fuck with Tywin. I love
Yeah.
that character. Looking at my list to see if I had anything else on this. What you got? Anything on the on the topic list? While I check mine.
I I didn't have anything particular. I was going to ask if you saw that post. I meant to ask when we were doing the politics stuff, where I posted somebody, or I didn't post it, but I shared it. That somebody said, in 2017, CTE must have been airborne in the Pittsburgh locker room.
Oh yeah.
They're talking about Le'Veon and Antonio Brown being at the Trump thing or whatever. That shit had me dying laughing. That CTE must have been airborne.
Yeah. EJ's gonna be at the game tonight, and he got a notification that Trump is gonna be there with Le'Veon
Yeah,
and what's his name? Can't
Antonio
remember
Brown.
his name. Antonio Brown.
Yeah,
To talk about the election. So, but yeah, those dudes are crazy, man. Antonio Brown, he's fucked up. Dude is messed up in the head.
yeah. They're telling people to show up early, and be like at least 2 hours early to go through security and all that stuff like that. So,
Oh yeah, so you know EJ gonna be late.
mm-hmm.
No question. They probably need a tailgate. Well, he'll be there because they're gonna tailgate. They're gonna be drunk.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else on my list.
Did you hear about the? Did you see the story about that guy who said he was going to ride out the hurricane on his boat?
Oh, Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. Well,
So,
Devontae Adams is out.
oh,
Wait a minute. What is this? This is wrong. They have him listed out, but he's playing. Oh, I see what they did. When do the Jets play tonight?
the Jets play. Let me see.
Yeah, they still have Devontae Adams listed on Las Vegas for some reason. So they probably just listed him as out so people wouldn't pick him.
The Jets play. No, this is next week. Yeah, they play tonight. The night game.
Okay. That's probably what they did. All right. Yeah,
But
I saw that Lieutenant Dan story, but I didn't look too much into it.
yeah, well, he's been arrested now because it turns out that he he missed a court hearing. And you want to know about you know what the court hearing was for?
Oh,
It was a warrant out for
Jesus.
him for missing a court hearing. You want to
For
know what it was
stealing a
for?
boat?
It was for his ownership of that boat. like the validity of his ownership of that boat.
Oh my
Yep.
gosh.
Oh, like that. I saw that shit on Twitter, and I was, or X or whatever, and I was like, yo, this is like this is the Florida man story I've ever seen.
It
Dude
is.
says he's gonna ride
Really
out the
is.
hurricane on the boat, and then he gets arrested because there's some kind of issue with his ownership of that boat.
Because he wrote out the story. Because he wrote out. Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Yeah, but I didn't like the fact that he was getting like hailed as this, hero. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, yeah, fuck out of here.
You know how I
I'm
feel
good
about
with
stuff
that.
like that. I mean, like, people like I remember that one time I said, you go surfing in a volcano and then you expect FEMA to show up and rescue you,
Mhm.
and I'm not with that. This storm here, I didn't have power for 3 days, and we were getting the alerts. We had got an evacuation order in my county. And at first it said like just to evacuate. And then later they sent out a new message saying like people with disabilities should evacuate, which is me,
Right.
but I can't drive anywhere. And so, we were riding out at home. But this storm had me very, very, I haven't been nervous about a hurricane like this in a very long time. And, I was telling people that if I had the ability to drive, that we would have left. I wouldn't have stayed here because I was very, very nervous about this hurricane. When I say like very, like to tell you how nervous I was, um, I obviously I didn't want to freak my kid out, who's up in college and away from us. But I sent a bunch of stuff to my sister-in-law in terms of like our insurance information, like this is where this is at, this is phone numbers for that, policy numbers, amounts, and things like that, because that's how scared I was about this hurricane. Um, and so for people to just write it out and like not
And
having
on the
any
coast.
yeah, like it's you can't do stuff like you have to take this stuff serious, man. And this dude's, I'm gonna just stay in my boat on the like, if the water goes up 20 feet, then the boat just goes up 20 feet. And it's like, yeah, but what about the wind and all that other stuff, you jackass? Like, like come on now.
It's not how this works.
Yeah.
It's not how this works.
We had a
Yeah.
dude, and I told you, like, the first time I experienced this was when I was in the military. When I was in Japan, we had a typhoon hit, which is just a hurricane. They call it a typhoon in Asia for some reason. And we had a typhoon that hit, and a guy from my unit went out, left the barracks, and him and a couple of his buddies went out, and they went and took a inflatable raft into the water to get some waves. And the one dude, they all got knocked out of the boat, but the one dude didn't make it back. And they had to end up sending dudes in a AAV and an amphibious assault vehicle, like in the water, to try to find his body, like during a hurricane. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And it's like, you have gone and done something stupid, and then you're putting other people's lives at risk because of doing nonsense or whatever. You want to catch some waves in a hurricane or whatever.
Yeah, there was a lot of that here too, as a matter of fact, for that storm. But it was definitely a very intimidating storm leading up to it, and we dodged a
Yeah.
mega bullet.
Yeah.
We dodged a bullet for that thing to break up the way it did at the coast, because if it would have stayed together like Charlie did,
Hmm.
it would have been bad. It would,
Yeah.
and the fact that it sped up significantly, that also helped us out. But
Hmm. Like I wasn't
yeah,
here for Charlie, but I've heard stories. But like I said, for me, I mean, I've lived through my fair share of hurricanes. I'm from Miami. Like, I was in Miami when Andrew hit in '92. You've been there
right.
for a bunch of storms, so I've seen what these hurricanes can do. Um, and like I said, I don't like, I've been one of those people who's been like, wake me up when it's a category 3. If it's 2 or under, it's kind of like nothing to see here for me. But for this one, and I think what got me with this hurricane, it's not like I'm some kind of expert just because I'm from Florida, right? But I still believe in experts, right? And I'm watching the experts, the meteorologist. There's a meteorologist from Miami on TV crying about this hurricane, and when they interviewed him, he said the reason that he was crying is because he understands what's going to happen when this hurricane hits because of how powerful it was going to be, and he was
Right.
thinking about the future destruction, and it brought him to tears. And I'm like, yo, you know what I mean? And so for people to just treat it so, cavalierly, like I'm just gonna stay on my boat during a hurricane, nothing to see, it's it's
Yeah.
it's terrible, man.
Yeah. I'm
I
gonna
was
just
scared as
relax.
hell.
Yeah, it was tough. I boarded up one of my windows, and well, we got lucky, man. Let's hope that the season pans down, and we get some some quiet time, and
Yeah,
it's
we
probably
got
gonna
two out
it's
there right
gonna
now.
yeah, it's probably gonna push some people out of here though. It's kind of the
Yeah,
bonus to it,
yeah.
you know.
All those people who came in, the COVID, I saw a thing, a post on that. People were saying like they brought in all those people from COVID from wherever, and now they're like, yo, what the fuck? Like, so this happens every year?
Yeah,
Like, yeah. Nah, I gotta get out of here. So,
especially for that side of the state. Like,
hmm
woof, they got hit. They got hit hard, dog. This year,
yeah,
that shit was tough. That
my
shit was
brother
tough.
left. My brother went home for um the storm. What was it, Helena, whatever it was. He went back to Miami for that because he lives in Tampa. And
Right.
then he was like, on the morning that they got back, I sent him a text about Milton, and he told his wife, "Yo, let's pack up and get out of here. I'm not staying for this."
Yeah.
He went right back to Miami.
Yep. Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, I was just about to say it's it started to dry up around here, but now it's raining a little bit outside, so that
Yeah.
sucks. I need it to dry up so I can get this damn grass cut.
Yeah.
I don't like cutting my grass when it's wet.
Mhm.
Doesn't it doesn't do what I want it to do.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, I think that is all that I had for today. Football time is coming, so I'm gonna give it to you to get us out of here so that we can get our lineup set and get prepped for the games.
Hey, everybody, we definitely appreciate you guys for rocking with us on this week's episode of the Castworthy Podcast. No, I wasn't here last week to mention anything about the hurricane, but for the folks who might still not have power, there's a very small group of people who are still without power at this point. Hopefully, they get it back soon. Hopefully you and yours were safe during this hurricane, and like we were just talking about, take this stuff serious. As we always say, man, make that phone call, send that text message, reach out to your people, let them know you're thinking about them. As Steve mentioned, we have 16 days to election day, so make sure you make a plan to vote. You can go to iwillvote.org. I think, is it .org or .com? It's .org or .com. I can't remember. Sorry, I wasn't planning on saying that. It kind of popped in my head. But vote. You know what I mean? Make sure you're registered. Get out there and make your voice heard. Your vote is your voice. So make your voice heard. And if you live here in Florida, where me and Steve are, in-person early voting starts tomorrow, October 21st through November 3rd. So make a plan to vote. If you plan on voting on election day, make a plan to vote or whatever. Don't just say I'm going to vote on that day. Have a plan to get it done. And don't leave without voting, even if you have to cast a provisional ballot. Make sure you vote. If you vote by mail, make sure you go to your county supervisor of elections website, and you can actually track your ballot to see that it was received and counted. If it wasn't counted and there was an issue with your signature, there's a process called curing or ballot cures that you can fill out a affidavit saying that indeed was your ballot to have it counted. So make sure you get that done. This is your country too. You can find us on all podcasting platforms by searching at Castworthy. You can also follow us on any of our social media by searching at Castworthy. On Instagram, it's at Castworthy_podcast. While you're there, you can leave us a subscribe, share, follow, tell a friend, help us grow the audience. We very much appreciate it. And until next time, we will see you next week with another fresh episode of the Castworthy Podcast. Until then, we out. We love you. Peace.